This is Keys to the Shop, episode 352, a conversation about art, culture, and coffee with hip-hop artist Propaganda. Well, hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DeFirio. I'm your host for the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. Now, really quick, I hope that you are subscribed to Keys to the Shop. And if you're not, please do hit the subscribe button wherever you get your podcast. And that way, you'll always be updated with new episodes as they come out. And also, a great way to help this show is by sharing these episodes with a friend, or just share them on your social media platforms, with your email lists, with your team, and that helps spread the word about the great content and conversations and just the resource of Keys to the Shop for the specialty coffee retail community. Thank you very much, everybody, for doing that. Now, one of the ways besides this podcast that I love to help out in the coffee industry is through consulting and coaching. Whether you're interested in remote coaching and consultation or on-site trainings and cafe assessments, there's a lot of different ways that Keys to the Shop Consulting can work with you to help you build a thriving coffee shop. So I'd love to talk with you, and all you need to do to set up a discovery call is email me. Chris@keystotheshop.com is where you can do that, and we'll talk all about what you've got going on and if working with Keys to the Shop Consulting is the right fit for you. Again, that email for Keys to the Shop Consulting, Chris@keystotheshop.com. Now, today's episode is brought to you by the Ground Control Cyclops Brewer from Voga Coffee. And you know, if you've listened to this show, how much I love the Ground Control Brewer, because it's ushered in the next stage of what we can expect from batch brew by unlocking an incredible range of flavors in your coffee through the SCA award-winning technology that gives you ultimate control over how your coffee is presented to your customers. Not only is the Ground Control an amazing batch brewer, but it also brews tea, batch iced lattes, batch cold brew, so it increases your efficiency and output, as well as giving you that next level batch brew coffee. So this is a really amazing piece of equipment that you need to look into getting in your shop. To do that, go visit them over at groundcontrol.coffee to learn more information. Truly, if you're looking to represent your coffee well to your customers, not just well, just at another level, then you really do need to be considering a Ground Control Cyclops Brewer. Again, find out more information over at groundcontrol.coffee. Now, today's episode is also brought to you by the Barista Series, the line of plant-based performance beverages that are really the leaders worldwide in excellence for plant-based coffee drinks. And the reason is it's created for the coffee industry. Specifically, it's created for baristas and tested by some of the world's best baristas before it even reaches your counters and your customer's cup. That means with the Barista Series, you end up with a product that stands up to the heat from steaming, produces amazing silky texture, great for latte art, and on top of that, it keeps the balance of the beverage focused on the coffee. So to try this for yourself and taste the difference, go check them out over at pacificfoodservice.com and get a sample sent to your store. I really think you're going to be impressed. If you want to serve your customers the best plant-based beverages, then it needs to be the Barista Series from Pacific. All right, everybody. Well, I'm excited to share with you a conversation I had with hip-hop recording artist Propaganda. Prop has been a really dynamic presence in the coffee industry ever since really discovering coffee while on tour. Prop is many things. He's an author, artist, activist, a teacher, an advocate, and, of course, a coffee enthusiast, and spent some time as a coffee professional as well. He grew up in a working-class black family and lived in a predominantly Latino neighborhood of LA. His father would bring home a new record every week, and soul music and hip-hop blared through his house, as well as Latin-inspired music outside his house. There is a sense of multiculturalism that he grew up around right from the beginning. He saw that, one person's problem could be very similar to that of another person. So there's this connection there. And as he grew up and got deeper into arts, he went to college and graduated with degrees in illustration, intercultural studies, and he taught high school for 6 years. And he also had a hand in founding 2 charter schools in Los Angeles, and one of which had a focus on the arts. But in 2007, he resigned from teaching to pursue his passion, music, full time, and began touring as a solo artist. He joined the Humble Beast label Family and unveiled a series of 4 albums that put his music on the map. And Prop's 2014 album Crimson Chord was released for free, but still managed to top the several Billboard charts. Prop has toured with KRS-One, Murs, De La Soul, Lecrae, and played Warped Tour, Rock the Bells, Smoke Out Festival, and now he's taking things to the next level with his 5th studio album, Crooked. Now, in the mix of his pursuit of and success in art and music, Prop has been an avid enthusiast in the coffee space, starting with discovering coffee on tour to really just kind of diving in, kind of a common coffee nerd story, if you will. As he's embraced coffee, he's made it a part of his artistic expression. He's written one song called If Coffee Was a Man, and then has won a Sprudgie for his music video in partnership with LAThere Zoko called Calibrate. And in this conversation today, we're going to be talking about his evolution as an artist and as a coffee enthusiast, and all of his projects that he has taken on in coffee, all the lessons that he's learned as an artist, and his motivations and goals with both. You know, his music has always been a way to create conversations. He really sees how cultures overlap and how there's a oneness to us all. And I think you're going to get that in this conversation today as we dive deep into these concepts around culture, authenticity, music, advocacy, and more. So I hope you're ready for this. It's a really great conversation. I'm excited to share it with you. Here now is my interview with hip hop and coffee artist, Propaganda. All right, Prop, welcome to Keys to the Shop. How are you today?
Man, I'm great, bro. Honored to be a part of this. Yeah,
I'm so honored to have you on the show. I was just, before we started recording, congratulating you on your really awesome espresso setup there. You've got, I think it's a single group, or is it a Linea Mini? And
it's a Linea Mini. Yeah, Linea Mini. So, you know, first shout out to homie Liz Chai, who I feel like is like, she's like the P. Diddy of coffee. Like, she's just her and Bear. That's like Diddy and Dre. You know, it's just like everybody knows him. You got to go through them at some point. You know what I'm saying? So Liz like has always kind of looked out for me on whatever sort of spaces she's in. So she made the connection with LAThere Zoko, and you know, we've been cooking up some stuff, man. And I was like, well, I mean, I'd love to work with y'all, but you know, I'm like, I got some counter space that's lacking. You know,
there's no espresso machine here. What can we do about that?
What can we do about that, guys? Yeah.
No, Liz is amazing for sure. And LAThere Zoko also. Yeah. Love Liz. And coffee has been a long time passion of yours, hasn't it?
It has. Snuck up out of nowhere, but I definitely fell in love.
So that came while you were on tour, I guess, or while you were pursuing music. And I want to get into that a little bit. But, you know, one of the things that's true about coffee professionals and people who get sucked into the world of coffee really are a lot of artists. And who knows the mystical reason why that is? I don't know. But the idea of coffee attracts artists. And you've been pursuing music as an art form and expression for quite a long time. And I'm just curious to get a little bit of a background of how you found your affinity for music and expressing yourself and putting messages out through music.
Yeah, that's it's such a twisty story, but you know, to try to make it as linear as possible. You know, I'm a child of Los Angeles, you know, and around the time that you got all these things burgeoning, you know, in my early childhood, whether it was the beginnings, well, not the beginnings because they're a lot older than me, but like the height of like the Bones Brigade, you know what I mean, like the skate culture. You have the height of, or you know, the early state, well, not early, but gang culture, you know, and hip hop. Like it's all sort of happening in Cali at the same time. And I was always like a creative kid, you know, so like I started off, I actually went to college for visual arts, for illustration, intercultural studies, fell in love with graffiti, you know, and part of graffiti being a part of like just hip hop culture as a whole, you know, it was like freestyle and rap was like the next obvious evolution, you know, and it was just a soundtrack of our lives, you know, and So it started off as like, fun, you know what I'm saying? And kind of discovered, in my early teen years that like, man, I'm kind of good at this, and but I was closed-minded, hardcore backpacker, indie, like, if it's on the radio, it's trash, you know what I mean? Like that kid, and so the idea of having like a rap career was, laughable at the time, and but I went up to college, and kind of never stopped, but I started teaching. I finished college. I was teaching at a high school for the arts because, again, like art was always like my first language, and that was always kind of left the door open to sort of pursue music full time because I was in a space that was kind of like, hey, we want you to be a great teacher, but like you need to know what you're talking about. So like if you're not out still pursuing art, like this is kind of weird that you're bringing this to these students, you know what I mean? And I was like, well, I am pursuing art. And then there kind of became a day where it was like, all right, man, I'm not doing either of these things as well as I could be because my time is so split, So then I kind of just gambled on myself, and was like, all right, let's give it a year, and 13 years later.
Wow. So when you say let's give it a go, that meant like putting yourself out there as an artist with a name and booking yourself and stuff.
Totally. It was a full-time move. Like I was doing music the whole time, like, Weekend Warriors, showing up and, getting the opening slot at the House of Blues on a Thursday, and, running home, taking a shower, sleeping for like 3 hours, getting up and going to school, going to work. And because I had no delusions of grandeur, I was like, this type of hip hop I do, it's like, highly spiritual, highly cerebral, very sort of like lyrical type. I was like, man, I'm not whipping and nay-naying. There's no tall tees. You know what I'm saying? I'm not snapping my fingers and doing my stare. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I don't make commercial music. So it's just the idea of a commercial success in my brain was just not an option. You know what I mean? And until it was, and once it became like, oh, wait, you can actually do this and have a viable career. It was like, all right, well, let's bet on myself.
So when you had that transition to making it a career, up until that point, what had you learned about what your real true motivation was for continuing to do it? Because it's not easy to pursue something artistic that, in a practical sense, I guess, you're not getting quote unquote rewarded for. But what was the reward for you to pursue artistic things like that?
Man, I mean, gosh, it's like, it's hard to put a finger on. I think for me, one thing that was like instilled early was obviously like the greater sort of cultural kind of spiritual call to like leave the world better than you found it. You know what I'm saying? That kind of came from, my faith, my upbringing, my Black Panther father, like all of that stuff was like already embedded. But I think within that, because of sort of the neighborhood I was from, just this like, I grew up in a predominantly like Latino space, Mexican space, and like you just, your visions of manhood is like, man, you just work hard. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like right. That's what men do. Like it's a hard work, it's hard days, honest days pay. And for me, I with that was like, well, I refuse to not like my day. I want to do something I enjoy, because it's like you can get money. Like getting money is not. There's, as the Prophet's Mobb Deep says, there's numerous ways to earn funds. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'll make money, but I want to enjoy what I'm doing, and if I found a time where I'm like, I'm dreading Mondays, I don't want to get, and I'm like, then I'm not going to do this. And then I had to like look myself in the mirror and be like, dog, I love art. I'm basically was scared. I was scared that plan A wouldn't work. And I had to accept that, like, yo, art is plan A. Like, music, this is plan A. And rather than, like, making excuses for the idea that, like, what if I don't make it? You know what I'm saying? I was like, well, dude, I'm just scared. And, of course, you're not going to make it if you never actually really give plan A the gas it needs, So I was like, I want to enjoy what I'm doing. I want it to have, a long-lasting sort of, cultural sort of, spiritual effect, you know what I'm saying, on that is going to outlast me, and I was like, I want to do something that matters, and I'll make money. Like I said, like I'll make money. My education's done, it's fine. If it don't work, it's fine, but it won't work if I don't really give it a go.
That's really cool that you had this perspective right at the beginning of your career, because there's so many people who have commercial success, like you've been referring to, that have sort of financial riches but a poverty of soul in the midst of it. And so you were able to sort of drive down to the foundation of what you wanted to just keep as the bedrock of what you do from the beginning. Yeah. And obviously that worked out. The people probably recognize that, and they're on the same wavelength, which I imagine is something that you can pick up in your music and in the way that you present yourself that other people kind of want as well.
Yeah, dude, it always blows my mind when, something I do resonates. And of course, like, I'm still competitive. I'm still hungry. It's still like, like anybody else. It's never enough. It's never enough streams. It's never enough ticket sales. It's never enough. But that being said, like, at some point you have to learn how to like stop and really appreciate what you have accomplished and realize that like a lot of artists have not, and just, I'm thankful for it. You know what I mean?
At the point you were starting to find success with people, I imagine there was a time where the tables turned, where people were calling you instead of you calling people.
Yeah.
And there was some momentum behind what you were doing that really people were after it. And you were on tour, I imagine, when you discovered coffee. And It became somewhat of a passion, just like music. Maybe not as strong as music, depending on the coffee you're making, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
But how did this happen? How did you kind of tap into the coffee community as you were just deep in the music community?
Yeah, I think like you said, like it resonates with artists because I think the art of it all, the amount of like inflection points and points of variation that kind of show that like, oh, there's more to it than or actually the elegance of like the idea that like, well, it's beans and water, but you can do so much. I think for any artist, like at least for me, that's what resonated. But I think, yeah, it started off as just like, yeah, I drank coffee like everybody else. I'm trying to get up for work. You grab it real quick, dump a ton of cream and sugar in there, and go where you got to go. And then, yeah, you're on tour, and at first it's like, well, I gotta get from Birmingham to Atlanta, tonight. So let's just pull up, gas station, get the coffee, drive through, and then you get to the city, and now you got some time to kill. So it's like, oh, let's go to a coffee shop, and it's got Wi-Fi, you know what I'm saying? And you're just killing time. And it's like, well, I'm not gonna not, you gotta buy something, you know what I'm saying? So then at the time, they had all these what looked like scientific contraptions to us, which was simply a Chemex, you know what I mean? But
yeah, right.
At the time, it was like, yo, what is that? Y'all make coffee out of that? You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? So they're doing this stuff, and you're like, man, that's interesting. Like, I didn't know you can, and you drink the cup, and it's not like you immediately tell the difference, until it's the next night, and you got to go back to the gas station to get through the drive. And you're like, oh, this is different. And you can now your palate's woken up, and there's no going back, So that was like the origins. And I was like, man, I should know how to make this at home, So then that, hundreds of thousands of dollars later, you know what I'm saying? Like getting all the contraptions at the crib and buying all the bags. I followed the same sort of like bell curve of snobbity that everybody did when you first discover it. You're just like a new Christian, you're just an evangelist to everybody, you feel me? And then you get to the place where I like to say like, you're just, you become this like sort of closed-minded, like fundamentalist about your coffee where no one's doing it right. you know, and then you come down the other end of that and you're just like, nah, I just enjoy things. So I followed the same bell curve as everybody else. I think what was unique for me was like the light bulb turning on, that like, oh my God, it only grows at the equator. Wait, this was discovered in Africa? And now I'm looking around and I'm like, well, where the black and brown people? You know, and at that point, then my brain switched and I was like, oh, this is just like hip hop. This is just like, you know, every other thing that black and brown people invent and don't control anymore. You know, I was like, all right, now we getting active.
So you were already like energized by coffee in a lot of different ways, of course, but the idea that this had more of a cultural, social meaning that was dear to you. And so when you found that, what did that spark in you beyond your desire to make the perfect Chemex and you know, just enjoy coffee to higher and higher degrees? What became mixed with that in terms of your goals and thoughts around coffee?
Man, it was like, yeah, like all of my sort of, you know, original antennas, like I said, being a child of a Black Panther, understanding what it means to just be Black in America, understands what it means to be appropriated, watching, you know what I'm saying, stuff on TV where they're like, you know, making almost like, I know they're not trying to make fun of us, but that's what's happening, you know, when you're seeing, you know, the little white kid with his hat kind of cocked 3/4 to the side and he's like, yo, dog. And you're just like, bro, you know what I'm saying? Like just the frustration of thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is about to be yet another thing, you know, that continually happens with things that sort of originate out of sort of our struggle, you know what I'm saying? Whether it was the aesthetics or stuff like that, like I found myself especially trying to come back home and share the drinks with the homies and then being like, immediately thinking, oh, that's white people stuff, you know? You know, whenever you bring in things like this, like, yo, that's white stuff, you know what I mean? And that being the reaction, and then just being like, but wait, it's really not though. So that really, and walking into coffee spaces, feeling uncomfortable myself, being like, you selling a product that can literally only come from us, you know? And I was like, this can't, nah, fam. So at that point, I was like, I'm trying to turn this into a cookout. Like, this finna be a barbecue. This finna be the carne asada. Like, I'm bringing all of my folks into this, you know, and then became sort of a hunt into whether it was like radicalizing or onboarding all of the Black and brown and indigenous people I knew, you know what I'm saying? And then sort of like making contacts, you know, and connections between people in the industry of, they're like, well, you guys think, you know, man, you think I'm special, you think I'm unique, yo, you should meet this cat, yo, you should meet these people. And then telling them people who, you know, who happen to like low key felt the same way, that like, oh, well, I love coffee, but coffee space ain't really for us. It's like, well, why not though? You know what I'm saying? And just starting to be like, I want to be that liaison, that connection between sort of the spaces I live in and the spaces I happen to be in right now, you know?
How have you found the most success in doing that?
Man, I think one is just like, in some ways it's been as just being myself, of like me just being loud about it, making it a part of my brand. You know what I'm saying? You talk to like, and this is kind of a flex, but if you talk to like, you know, A-Bar over at Coffee Black, he's like, props why I do this. You know what I'm saying? And that I was the one that made him go, oh my gosh, you can do this. You can be authentically yourself. You could bring yourself into the coffee space. But I think so he's a perfect example of that. And that was just me being me, you know. But I think also, whether it's just the education around the fact that like, nah, like you have a place here. Not only do you have a place here, but this comes from your ancestors. That just turning that light bulb has been very effective. And then lastly, like I'd say bringing people to the table, you know, shops out here in LA, roasters out here in LA, connecting with like, people doing different things and just like kind of hitting them on the side, especially like artists, who see that I'm an artist. But if I hit them on some like, hey, look, I don't need no feature. You know what I'm saying? I'm not asking for you to listen to my mixtape. I'm saying I want to get to you. I want to get at you about this coffee stuff, and that's like so unique, and not needing my face on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, homie, y'all should talk to these people about your merch. Hey, I know this importer, you know what I'm saying? He from South Central, we live in Houston now though. But like, so now this is like, your supply chain is now looking more like us too. You know what I'm saying? And just really just bringing people to the table and taking the connections I've made and just passing that on, without needing my face to be in front of everything has been like really like one of the most effective ways.
That's excellent. I'm thinking in terms of coffee shops, how their portrayal in communities and the commercial success of coffee shops, if we want to like parallel it to hip hop and any other type of music that you might consider, there's a commercial aspect of it, and then there's the subgenres and things like that, and so there is a lot of gatekeeping in the commercial success category of things, where you don't see, in this case, you're not seeing yourself in these coffee shop spaces, right? But at the same time, conceptually on paper, coffee shops are supposed to be the third place.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be a melting pot, a gathering place, whatever, like they're supposed to be a vibrant tapestry of community. And in some ways, maybe the hyper commercialization of coffee in America especially has sort of made it boring in a sense.
Or monolithic, if you will. It's like there's an aesthetic that at some point we all agreed was the aesthetic, and rather than that authenticity of self, you know what I'm saying? And like, I say all this to say, like, this is I know it sounds like it, but it's no slight to white culture or white people. I'm like, nah, what you're doing is you're being yourself, which is great. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, just saying we need to do the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, and those have been, especially on the commercial side of it, there's a spot out here called Tierra Mia, and they're dudes from Pico Rivera, which is like just this Latino hood, like 20 minutes east of LA. And all of his spots, like, they look like old school, like panarias, like where you would go get pan dulce. Like, they don't look, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't look like what you supposed to. They look like they neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're not on the west side. They're in, I'm going to name these cities that anybody in LA would know, but like, they're in like Southgate, Huntington Park. Like, this is where like Cypress Hill is from. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are like brown hoods, and they're bringing bomb coffee, you know what I'm saying? Montebello, East LA, like and it looks like East LA. And so it's not so much that they're just being themselves. You know what I'm saying? And then you look at like Harone and like Hilltop out here in LA, they just look like Harone's in Leimert Park in the Crenshaw district. It looks like Crenshaw, so like, I think that, and then those places are successful because they're just being themselves. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's something that a lot of us could really, especially from the like you said, like the comparison with like the commercial success with like hip hop and stuff. Like, I feel like when you're not being your authentic self, eventually it's gonna catch up to you. You know what I'm saying? But in music, like when a person is truly being themselves, you'll see the longevity of how like the fans continue to rock with you because you're just being yourself. You know what I mean?
You prioritized that when you first started. You said, I can get money. Yeah. And one of the things when I work with people is in coffee shops and starting coffee shops, there's a fear of the unknown because they've never opened one before. Totally. And so you're going to latch on to what is, whatever chord progression you think is going to be the most successful in the laboratories of Nashville, or, in coffee, it's just, we're going to do, not to slight anybody with, white backsplash in succulents and things like that. Yeah. But I have succulents behind me now. So what? Me too. But, the point is that you have to ride the line and the tension between safety and authenticity. For sure. Feels like.
Yeah, it's like, I always like to say, it's like You have like your album has to have a single. You got to have a radio song. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times radio songs, and like you said, there is a formula. Like it's funny. I was in this 3-day debate about Macklemore and the Thrift Shop song. You know, a lot of the younger homies who, you know, sort of have like looked up to me as an artist, they were so like absolutely flabbergasted that I was like, it's a good song. And they're like, there's no way in the world the prop I fell in love with thinks this is a good song. And I'm like, first of all, Macklemore can rap. Like, that's like, don't take that from the boy. You know what I'm saying? And then secondly, I'm like, it's a good song the way that like that particular song is good in the way that like Miley Cyrus, Party in the USA. The formula's perfect. It's catchy. You know what I'm saying? You can sing along. You can learn it real fast. It's got a great bridge. It's mixed well. It will play in the club. It'll play in the car. I'm like, that's like you can't take that from it works, you know? So I would say so you're right. It's like the same in like the coffee shop. Like I'm not going to take it from you. Like if it works, it works. You know what I'm saying? And it's because it's algebra. It's math. You know what I mean? But then you take something like, I don't know, like let's say Swimming Pools from like Kendrick, you know, which was the same year as Thrift Shop, you know, where it's like we still play Swimming Pools, like that song is still play, and it's but it's the same thing. It's catchy, it's got a great hook, you can sing along, it's got a great bridge, you know, they probably put the same amount of money in it, but there's an authenticity in that it's like that feels true, you know. And yeah, Macklemore won the Grammy, you know what I'm saying? But like, and he even recognized like I shouldn't have won this, you know. But I just think, yeah, like, you know, albums need singles, you know what I'm saying? But even when you make that radio hit, like, how authentic is it? You know, is that really you? Is that really? I always say to myself, like, and I know this is like a weird comparison for if y'all don't do hip hop, but like I say to myself, is this, if you make a hit, that's the song you got to perform everywhere you go, every night for the rest of your career. And that's the one song that everybody they not gonna know anything else you do. Are you okay with that? You know what I'm saying? Or you got it, but like you gonna have to perform this song for the rest of your life. You feel me? So for me, I'm like, I'm going to be real careful. Like, if I do got to perform it, I want it to be something I actually like. So for me, it's like, it's the same with the shop. I'm like, okay, if you walk into this shop, who going to come? Who's going to respond to this? And is this what I want to be known for the rest of my career?
And that's what happens with a lot of coffee bars that rely on the hits and finding the singles version of success, where they are typecast, you know, the rest of their lives. Like anybody who worked as an actor in Saved by the Bell.
Oh yeah, you're done.
You know,
this is hard.
And yeah, exactly. You have to work against that. And if you start slower, you know, when you're talking about this stuff, I'm thinking, one of the things that's true is that representation matters, you know, but we focus on that phrase when it refers to people, like seeing people.
Yeah.
But when I hear you talking about spaces,
absolutely,
it's spaces that represent people too, and a part of culture that you have to have a certain amount of cultural and self-knowledge and permission to sort of embrace that or re-embrace that. From a lot of people that I talk to who have started coffee shops that are very culturally rooted, they've had to fight for giving themselves permission to embrace that themselves, right?
Absolutely.
And so it feels like, yes, it's all of that, and also rediscovering yourself.
Yeah, man, that's so true. I think any person of color like not only knows what it feels like, but knows it when you see it, when they like Kanye was like, oh, we love Kanye, put him in the front of the store. You know what I'm saying? It's like, all right, I know I am the color splash in there that makes you feel like, but I'm still submitted to your system, to your aesthetic, to your way of life. You just put a black face on it. You know what I'm saying? And we feel it, and you know it. You know, like in any scenario, you know when your voice matters. You know what I'm saying? You know when your opinion matters, and you know when you have a say in how the ship is being steered versus, oh no, you're checking a box for me. You know, and sometimes there's a place for it. Like, I'm like, you all don't have to be revolutionaries. Everybody don't have to be Huey Newton. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you like, listen, here's the thing. I'm a college student. You know what I'm saying? I work here part-time. I like coffee. I don't know if I'm going to do this forever. But yeah, go on, put me up front. Then like, do you? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't you gotta, if you like, I'm just trying this coffee shop thing. Like, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I just thought it was dope to try it. Cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't gotta take on, everybody don't have to take all this on. You know what I'm saying? But if you asking me, I'm like, I'm 10 toes down. Like, I'm already neck deep. So that's why, like, I talk the way I talk. But everybody, you don't have to do this. But what I'm saying is, like, I would never shame a person for being black or brown hands. Like, it's fine. You know, like, do what you got to do.
When we're talking about, you know, what you do with your music now, you're keeping the conversation going about this through your music. You had you won a Sprudgie, I believe, for the
that was
song,
crazy.
If Coffee Was a Man. And then the music video Calibrate, the song Calibrate. And I'm curious if you would talk a little bit about what, you know, I think we've already been talking about it here, about what we want to communicate to the coffee industry, but where was your heart in those songwriting, in the process of songwriting for those things, and how you want the conversation to go within the coffee community that you've actually been a member of as a former entrepreneur in coffee, right?
For sure, yeah. Former and now current. I got a little announcement to make a little later, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, buddy. So yeah, I think the Coffee Were a Man first came from the homie, my homeboy Siakaju. He's from Panther Coffee out in Miami. He actually gave me the phrase first. He was like, hey man, I just want you to think about this as a poem. If coffee were a man. I was like, it'd be a black man. He goes, yep. I was like, all right, poem's done. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I a lot of times for me, like, poetry, specifically my poetry, is like, I see it as like this, like, if the turn of phrase is like potent enough, I'm like, this is an overpacked suitcase. Like, the poem's already in there. All I got to do is unzip it, you know? So that was one of those things where I was like, oh, this thing's going to write itself, you know? In terms of, like, the idea that whether it's the perception of black men historically in America's perception of black people, brown people, whatever the case may be, you know, as one way, whereas if you know us or a part of our community, you're like, well, that's not even, it's not even it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, just this idea of, like, yo, we're not selfish. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're like when you think of, like, some of the lyrics, is like, yeah, man, like, I'd gladly share. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is the fruits, you know, I'm the fruits of my grind and sweat. You know what I'm saying? I'll flourish, you know, come hell or hot water. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause it brings out the best in me. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, you know, I'm not afraid of struggle. I'm not afraid of, you know, hard work. I'm not afraid of the grind. You know what I'm saying? And everyone's welcome. You know what I'm saying? But, like, fam, don't treat me like a commodity. Like, I'm just something that you get to own and trade and take my fruits and succeed from. Like, no, I'm at that point, you are gonna see, you know, the more protective, sort of aggressive, kind of violent side of us. 'Cause it's like, bro, like, you saw how hard I worked to toil this soil. You don't get to just take it and sell it. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, fam. Like, and on top of that, it's like, but I'm welcoming you in. Like, I love the collaborations. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you think about when coffee went up to, you know, Scandinavia and they figured out light roast, it was like, oh Lord, we didn't know we could do this. That's dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, so all of that stuff, what happened in, you know, Turkey and Vienna and Spain, like, you know, all of the things that this one product that's really for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we share and enjoy the fruits, it's like, yo, this is a totally different story. It doesn't have to be this stratified, you know, sort of way it is. So that was kind of like using that sort of metaphor of coffee in its truthfulness, but also, you know, what's happening culturally. Now, as far as Calibrate, the visuals came second. I was writing the song and generally just about like mending relationships. And then I sort of and then as I was talking, I was like, yo, what if somebody was like actually calibrating something? Because at the time it's crazy, actually pretty funny. At the time I was writing the song, I was taking apart my my Baratza Encore, the grinder, because you know how it don't grind espresso unless you like fix it, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I was trying to calibrate it for espresso, and I broke it. So I was like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. So then I was like working on the song. I was like, yo, Calibrate. And I was like, that's kind of a dope name for this song. So then I was like, yo, what if I had somebody calibrating? Yo, what if it was an espresso machine? So immediately I called Liz and was like, hey, what do you think? And she hit her, you know, Scott, who's not there anymore, but she hit Scott at the time. And he was like, no brainer, let's go. So yeah, we just went up there, had the homie Cliff, you know, their head tech, you know, who's a DJ. Like, it just, everything just worked perfectly. He's part of the Zulu Nation. Like, he's a DJ. So it just worked perfect. You know what I'm saying? And it was one of those things, like a lot of my music, lyrics, whatever, there's always like a wink to the audience, or like a if you know type wink. So I was like, all the pieces, you know, taken apart, and he's putting a machine back together. But the wink to the audience is to the coffee industry, where you know what this is. But so I'm already wink to you as soon as you saw the different pieces, you know what I'm saying, on the table, like, oh my God, it's an espresso. You know what I'm saying? But if you didn't know.
Yeah, that's right.
And then the reveal happens, it's like, oh my God. Of course, prop is putting together. So, you know what I'm saying? So that was kind of like the thinking behind it, to where it was like just a wink and a nod to this part of my world, and then bringing those two worlds together again.
You know, I think the advocacy that you have as a thread, like the advocacy for, you know, standing up for yourself, and also like taking the spotlight off of sort of selfish ambition and making it more driven by an others focused, like you're talking about the value chain and the idea of, are we looking out for everybody? And so we're starting with us. We're starting with the farmers and the people that work the soil. And then from there, once your mindset is woken up, kind of like your palate was woken up between gas station coffee and Chemex coffee, you start to think about other people too, right? What's like the end result of this kind of chain reaction of becoming aware of others around you, rather than just trying to get everything for yourself and using coffee to do it?
Man, I think it's interesting, right? Because it's like the part of you that says, okay, I'm going to be selfless and I'm going to look out for others. And then the others get the like full spreads on Barista Magazine, you know what I'm saying? Gets all the like, you know, the coverages on Vice and all the stuff that you're just like, oh, wait. What about me? You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, nah, buddy. You know what I'm saying? Like you set out to elevate others and it's working, you know? So there's the part of you that feels like, you know, I call that the lower me. That's like, well, dang, like the lower me is like, well, wait, really? I don't know if I really did want to just play the background now that I'm only playing the background. You know what I'm saying? But then, so that's the lower me. But like the truer me is when you get to look back and you see, like, you know, so many years later, something that wasn't there that is now there. It's like there's no greater, I don't know if there's a greater like satisfaction, you know what I'm saying, that like I know when I leave the back of like, I'm looking around like Color Coffee Collective, like, we had it in Houston. Like, I'm not saying this to take any credit for that, because Keith and them worked super hard on that. That's theirs. I'm just saying in the sense that like when I started in coffee, nothing like this existed. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, man, somehow or another, whether it was from me or not, probably not from me, fools caught the vision and was like, yeah, we need to work toward this. So it's just so dope to see, you know what I'm saying? And just the reward of like, yeah, like it's got its own sort of types of satisfaction that you get to look back and say, man, when the history books are written, when I'm long gone, people go, but prop though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. And my wife and I we lost this, our house came with like this nice plum tree in it. This is an interesting, metaphor here, that it died in a frost or ice storm, and I was really upset because it had such a nice aroma to it. But we want to plant something in place of it, but we're not going to stay here forever in this place. But we know that whatever we plant is not going to be there for us to enjoy, and so you're wrestling with that idea of, do I sow the seed, even though I'm not going to live in the shade of whatever grows there? And, that's for family, that's for industry, and that's what I hear you saying here.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like, somebody else is probably going to harvest this, but like, I mean, what greater good is there? Like what I'm going to do, when I'm, now I want my Sprudgy plaque. It ain't came yet, but I want it, but I'm not going to be buried with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I'm going to do after that? It's going to go in a box somewhere for, my children have to figure out how to store. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I'm gonna do just collecting statues. Like, what am I gonna do with that? When eventually it's just gonna be a storage unit somewhere.
Yeah.
I have one of my friends who's I'll name no names, but he's won a few music awards, and in their little apartment, I saw 3 of the awards was holding up the curtain over their window unit air conditioner. Oh. He's like, yeah, man, at this point, they're just statues. And I'm like, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like knowing that, he's like, but you can't do that with the lives you changed. You know what I'm saying? With the full sort of effect you've had on culture and lives forever is like, you can't quantify that.
Yeah. And it transcends yourself. There's something greater than yourself. And a lot of us want to have a part of something greater than ourselves. And because of that, you naturally, logically wouldn't have the capacity to understand the fruit of it. And so that's the tension. When you are looking at the coffee industry and all of the potential that there is for coffee businesses, especially, who portray different aspects of the industry to consumers and really are in charge of steering the industry, retail especially. This podcast is focused really heavily on the industry of retail. How do you think coffee companies, owners especially, people who have the authority to make a difference in that sector, can use their roles to create a better future for coffee itself and the people in coffee?
Man, I love that, man. I think it's a good question. I think in a lot of ways we have a way of like reinventing what sort of industry means. One thing I've loved about like coffee so far, and I feel like it would be dope if we sort of like continue to make that sort of a chief cornerstone, is like, of course there's competition, we're competitors, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're obviously, fighting to be successful, but like, it's fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in a, full ambassadorship and partnership with Mir, where we make mugs, you know what I'm saying? But we also, we're making other different things coming down the pike, but it's like, yeah, Fellow makes mugs too, but I have a grinder. I have a fellow grinder. You know what I'm saying? I got their kettle. Like, it's fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that just this like attitude of like, I'd really like to see everyone win, you know, is something I feel like, yo, this could be such a different way to do, you know, capitalism. You know what I'm saying? Is one that says, well, nah, I'd love to see us all win. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's plenty of way to, we can make money. The money's there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'll be fine. The coffee ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? But I think, yeah, like more collaborations. There's shops down here where it's like, yeah, one roaster uses the other roaster's roasting facility to roast their beans to go. It's like, yeah, dude, it's all good. You know what I mean? We share warehouses. You know, some of the stuff I got coming down the pike, you know, which when we get a chance, I'll tell y'all about that. Like, I hit some of the foods up and they was like, yeah, dude, use our warehouse. You know, I was like, really? It's like, yeah, it's cool. You know, so just that, like, letting that be more upfront, you know, like letting that be part of our story to where it's like, yeah, we might be competitors, but we're homies. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's, you know, when I was doing the, you know, with the La Marzocco, I was like, hey, I got this other guy's grinder. Is that going to be a thing? He's like, dude, they're our friends. It's all good. We make grinders, but it's fine. Like, it's cool. You know what I'm saying? And just that sort of attitude around sort of the industry, I've really enjoyed. You know, like I said, like I'm partnered with Mir, but the dudes that created Co, like, those are the homies. They're down in Orange County. Like we're friends, you know? So I think that if we as an industry can bring that forward more of like, yo, let's show that, like, yo, we're friends. There's ways for us to do this that's not sort of, you know, sharky, you feel me? And as a form of commerce, you know. And then secondly, just the idea of the awareness of which I think, you know, Mir does, which is part of why I love him so much, does very well, just the giving aspect of it, to where they're trying to build a better future. So they're like, yo, these are these initiatives, you know, these are these people we trying to highlight. This is stuff going on in your community. This is what we doing in Africa. This is what we doing there. You know what I'm saying? This is what Africa suggested us do. Not like we just went down there and was like, hey, we're going to do this. There's like, nah, this is what they said they needed. So y'all want to help them get what they said they needed? You feel me? So like stuff like that, I feel like is things that we can do more.
It's the collaboration aspect that I notice is a lot more of a thing in hip hop than it is in any other genre, where if you look at the song on an album, you see maybe 2 or 3, sometimes 4, depending on who you're listening to. And they're all prominently featured, whereas if you're listening to another music style, it's just the artist and then the nameless studio musicians behind it.
Yeah, we say produced by, you know what I'm saying, featuring, right? That like, yeah, like it's like, nah, like I think there is an element of hip hop that understands that, like, nah, dude, we're helping each other. You know what I'm saying? And we're growing hip hop as a whole by us doing this, you know? So yeah, you're right. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, it's prominent. Like, this is prop featuring this person, produced by this other person, everybody.
Right. And if you're authentic to yourself, like you were talking about, it's like you may have done a collaboration on these albums, but the fans that are really your they're fans more of your music are still going to be your fans, even though somebody else, they're not going to steal your fans necessarily. People will sort themselves out.
Absolutely. You have a big enough, people have big enough hard drives. Like, you have a big enough, nobody streams one album at a time. Like, that doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm streaming this guy, so I can't stream that guy. That's ridiculous. No one thinks like that, you know? So I think too, like, yeah, it's the same with coffee. It's like, yo, you're a fan of this, but like, bruh, if I'm on that side of town, I'm not going to drive all the way to the, you know what I'm saying? Like, nah, I'm on that side of town. It's cool. You know what I'm saying? So when you walk in and you like, oh, you're friends with, you guys are already friends. Oh, okay, dope. You know?
I love it. Well, you've been hinting at this, and I want to make it our last question here. And thank you again. This is really fantastic. I love this conversation. What is it that you're working on right now that you're really excited about? What's coming down the pike that you've been kind of hinting at here?
I've been hinting at. Yeah, so solidifying the Terraform series, which was a book and 4 EPs, and then I did these collabs with Onyx, these like micro lot drops. One was called Terraform, and the other was called The Culture. Now we're finally solidifying it. That's not a micro lot, but like a full on canned cold brew, called Terraform Cold Brew. Completely shelf stable, like totally going to retail. I just got the final Shopify page. The pallet is sitting on the co-packers thing, getting ready to go to, the warehouse for distribution. But I'm back in the retail. I'm back in the coffee business officially with cold brew, shelf stable. It's like the process, like for my nerds, for y'all nerds, like, cause I know y'all listening to this, y'all appreciate this process. So we figured out how to, like, with Common Collabs, the homie Trey, he figured out how to make a concentrate, right? So it's not flash brewed, it's concentrated. So we make a concentrate batch. This is from the batch we got is sourced with Onyx. It's the El Tuacan spot in Colombia. I went out there. Maybe some of y'all saw on my social media, like me and I took the homie Andy Minio. We went out there on a sourcing trip. I was actually sourcing this bean. So Onyx and them roasted it. We brought it over there. They figured out how to not flash brew, but to concentrate. So they created a concentrate, which is why it's shelf stable, which is like one of the dopest things I've ever seen. You know what I'm saying? That, like, so I got a longer shelf life because I'm afraid of the fact that I got to off 8,000 cans the first time out. You know what I mean? So please hit me up. Like, if you got a shop, you know what I'm saying? Like, take a 6-pack, please. You know what I'm saying? And just tell me what you think, man. But yeah, Terraform Cold Brew, it's coming very, very soon, as in within the next week. So of when we're recording this. So yeah, I'm back in the coffee game.
Excellent. Wow. Congratulations to you for that. Where can people learn more about the cold brew and your music and your other things you're doing in coffee? Where is the best place to go?
Yeah, so Prop Hip Hop is my social media and my website. That's Prop Hip Hop, and terraformcoldbrew.com. There's nothing there yet because, like I said, we're getting there, guys. Y'all know what it's like, man. You like, oh, launch date, just kidding. Launch date 2, just kidding. Soft launch, you know what I'm saying? Made y'all get it, you know what I'm saying? So we're at the launch date 2 now. But hit your boy up. It'll be Terraform Cold Brew, but you'll see all the announcements on all my socials, Prop Hip Hop and prophiphop.com. That's where you find me.
Prop, it was awesome to have you on the show. I really appreciate your insights here. It's really amazing. Have an awesome day.
Dude, what an honor. Thanks, man.
Okay, everyone. Well, I really hope that you enjoyed that conversation with Propaganda. I really enjoyed the conversation, especially around the idea of lifting others up, as well as giving yourself permission to lean into authenticity and expressing who you are through your business. And I know that there are so many more businesses today in coffee that are truly rooted in cultural expressions that are dear to the founders and to the communities that those cafes are in. And we've had several of them on this show. I'll link to those in the show notes. And I think it would be great for us to continue to invest in uplift those seeking to do that with their businesses. And when we can do that too, when we look to see how we can serve each other and listen and understand each other's stories and where we're coming from and how we can serve each other well and lift each other up, I think we're all in a better place as a result. So a huge thank you to Propaganda for joining us on the podcast. Of course, if you want more information about Prop in his music, as well as what he's doing in coffee and this new line of cold brew, then you need to go to prophiphop.com. He also has a couple podcasts. One is called Hood Politics. The other is called the Red Couch Podcast. Links in the show notes for those, as well as the Instagram account at Prop Hip Hop. So if you have any questions, comments, or feedback for me about today's episode, please feel free to email me. Chris@keystotheshop.com is where you can do that. It's also where you can learn more about Keys to the Shop consulting. Chris@keystotheshop.com. Now, I'm really excited because I'm going to be on my way to Chicago for Coffee Fest this coming week, and I'm really hoping that I get to see you there. But if not, there are 2 more shows this year. That is in Los Angeles at the end of August and then in Seattle, and I really want to encourage you to check them out over at coffeefest.com. This is now 30 years that Coffee Fest has been putting on one of the best, if not the best, trade show and resource for specialty coffee retail in the world. Free and accessibly priced workshops, trainings, lectures, and seminars give you the kind of resources and equipping that you need to run a thriving coffee shop. This is really energizing for you and your team, so you get yourself and a few people from your shop to go. It's really a great time. Competitions like cold brew and latte art, always great. I'm a head judge for latte art, and so such great community too, by the way. You know, when you're there, you're rubbing elbows with people who are just as passionate about coffee as you are. And then, of course, there's the trade show floor with all the amazing vendors and the conversations you can have there. So I would encourage you to go to coffeefest.com and get yourself signed up for these final shows this year. You can use the code KEYS, K-E-Y-S, to get 50% off your registration. Just use the code KEYS, K-E-Y-S, and it gives you half off registration at Coffee Fest for you and your team in 2022. And I'll be giving lectures at each of these shows and judging latte art. So again, feel free to introduce yourself. I'd love to say hello, get to know you a little bit. And again, check them out at coffeefest.com. And with that, that is the end of our show today, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join myself and Propaganda for this great conversation. And as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.